And this one went according to plan. Also, the only film where Blade does not use his sword and engage in a sword fight with the villain in any point in the movie or in the climax with the main villain. So that is your Blade 2 trivia. And one other point, not really in the trivia, but in the movie they say it's been 2 years since the first Blade, but it came out 4 years after. I don't know why they just didn't say it's been 4 years.
Don't know.
So anyway, there you have it.
Right on. Thank you, Zach. I love your trivia. It's doing a good job there. Let's jump into the discussion. What do you think that Del Toro brought to this franchise, Lance?
Definitely the Reaper aspect, like a mutated vampire, the world, the new world that the vampires are in, so that House of Pain, all of that is so much Del Toro, like all like the goriness of it, like you have the guy getting his back worked on, that type of stuff. When you see the inside, when they do the autopsy, that stuff is very much on brand for Del Toro. The ways that some of the vampires died this time, very, very Del Toro-esque. So I think that like, some of the aesthetics of it really kind of feel like his hand had a work in it.
Zach, what do you think he brought?
Yeah, I agree. I think just having a more polished way to look at these over the top gruesome vampire aspects, because the first film was more like a mix of all these genres. This one was clearly horror action.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think all the other kind of genres we're talking about have kind of gone to the wayside here, and they decided, all right, we're going to go full in with horror action. And when you're going to have these kind of mutant vampires with like giant mouths that open up and that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that Guillermo del Toro loves. Like, you look at his creatures but then also have a good mix between CGI and practical effects. It's good. I mean, I think they maybe go a little too far with CGI here sometimes, but there's enough tangible stuff there where there's a good balance. And I think at the time that's why he was a good choice to do the Hobbit movies, right? Because it's like, he can, much like Peter Jackson, he can balance practical and CGI effects, right? Of course, he dropped out of those, and Peter Jackson stepped back in. But Del Toro, I mean, he likes that kind of tangible nature to things, and the horror element, right? He's kind of a weird horror guy, right? He loves that kind of stuff.
I liked this movie. I thought it was pretty good. I liked what Guillermo del Toro brought. I think he brought a lot of interesting types of like action sequences, like right at the beginning there when he's like jumping out the window and the camera's following him. Like that's some pretty cool action sequences. And I think that, as I said earlier, I think this movie is a very good fit for him. And what I would like to see more. I thought Ron Perlman was really fantastic in this movie. And I love Ron Perlman, right? So anytime Ron Perlman's on screen, he's it's automatically a 5-star film. So, well, maybe not a 5-star film.
He was in Star Trek Nemesis.
5 stars.
But that was kind of disappointing, though, because like I really did because I like Ron Perlman so much just as an actor, and like his presence, right? I kind of wanted the big final battle to be between Blade and Ron Perlman, and by the time you get to this generic monster guy, I was like, yeah, that's fine, but I don't really care about these bad guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Absolutely, should have been Ron Perlman all the way to the end.
Because like there was so much brewing with the two of them throughout the movie. It would have been good to see them actually have a confrontation instead of just Blade just handling him. Like we go into this already knowing that Blade's going to win in the end, right? But like it would have been nice to see him and Perlman kind of struggle and kind of duke it out, because it seems and it would make sense if Perlman would be like the most formidable of the people he was working with, because that just makes sense and it just adds weight to his character already that he's exuding. So that would have been, I think that would have been preferred.
This is obviously, they have a bit bigger budget this time, and you can definitely tell. Like, you're talking about Blade jumping out of windows. Like, they do a little too much CGI Blade sometimes, I think, because it's the early 2000s. They think CGI can do anything. When the vampires first show up in Blade's hideout.
Oh, that's my favorite sequence of the movie.
Yeah, where they're doing the kind of acrobatics, and they're all quiet. They're wearing these really cool costumes.
The Ninja Assassin League of Assassins theme.
Yeah, those are awesome. And I couldn't help but think, like, talking about, bigger is better, right? More polished is better. This is a case of more polished being better. Because you remember in the first film, they're like wearing motorcycle helmets and leather and sunscreen to be protected from light. But this time they got this full like hooded thing with the red eyes. And I thought that was really cool. And this really cool fight scene. Although probably the most egregious special effect in the whole movie is CGI Blade sword fighting. I think it's Nyssa.
Yeah.
At this point, you don't know it's her. But in front of the big lights. I'm like, why did Blade just become CGI? Like it's 2004.
Because it's too fast.
It's 2002. You don't have the technology yet to do this. I just like you could have easily lifted that. I don't know what 10 seconds out, and it wouldn't have looked as weird because it's like you see Wesley Snipes and all of that, and now it's CGI Blade for some reason because they did a backflip, and that's what was. And then the first one they didn't have. They knew they couldn't do it, so they just didn't do any of that. They had to use actors. They had to use stuntmen. With this one, I think they kind of went a little too far with the CGI in that scene.
It's a tough time with CG because you could do so much, but it didn't quite look right. I just watched Panic Room for another podcast that I'm going to be doing, and I mean, like even there, the big sequence in Panic Room is all CG stuff, and if the camera is doing things that you could not possibly do physically, like it goes through the handle of a coffee maker in like a long motion, and the sequence is really cool, but things look CG, and there's a shot where a cell phone gets knocked off a bed and comes towards the camera, and you can tell it's like a CG telephone, right? So that he can get it to go exactly where he wants, and it's tough because you could do so much, but it doesn't quite look right. So I don't know. Does it take away from the movie for me? Not really, I guess. But, we've definitely come a long way with our CG effects in movies.
But I will say, one of my biggest, criticisms of the first one, and hey, low budget, right? Lower budget, relatively speaking, how the vampires get killed and evaporate. Mm-hmm. That was such a PlayStation special effect, right? But I feel like now, and even the next one, they've kind of perfected that, and it fits in. When Blade kills a vampire, it's very consistent effect throughout all three movies. It proves every time. I think this time it definitely melded with the surroundings better.
Okay,
but yeah, no, I love Ron Perlman. Who doesn't like Ron Perlman?
He's great.
Right? So yeah, I wish he would have been the main villain.
Yeah,
I think that would have been better than Nosferatu over here, or his crazy son. But yeah, Lance, big fan of Blade. You watch these, Brandon and I are new to this trilogy. You watch it since they come out. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts on Blade 2 back in the day, and does it hold up for you?
It does hold up, and of the Blades, I think I've seen this one the most. Mostly, I think because you see Blade 2 on TV a lot, a lot of the time, like on TNT or something like that, or back in the day when Spike TV was a thing, they would show this movie and they'd show the first Blade, but they show Blade 2 a lot. And I think what I like about this one is just the novelty of Blade working with the vampires, both of them coming together, the two communities come together to fight a common enemy. Like the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of deal, which is pretty much spelled out by Blade in this. And he's like, keep your enemies close, your friends close, but your enemies closer. He actually says that.
Keep your enemies close, but your friends closer.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I like the dynamic that was going on here. I like some of the other vampire world building that went on in this, because in the first one, you had this vampire bureaucracy type of deal. Like everybody's in big business together, and this kind of undercover underworld organization of businessman vampires holding the empire down. But then in this movie, you get a little bit different. You have this dynastic old world system where you have a lord, Lord Damas, however you say the guy's name. I pronounce it differently each time. So, you have him, and then you have his daughter, who's basically there's this evil royal vampire family.
What a twist that was. Oh, it's his daughter.
Yeah, no, it's
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, you did. So you have that aspect of it, and I think that's an interesting angle to lean into, especially considering how old vampires are, and how they've existed for however long that they have. It makes sense that you could have both. You could have a vampire society that has, this old blood, old guard in this a royal family type of situation, and this new guard that has set up big business and kind of works things that way. Yeah,
I think that's a common thing too in where do you go with sequels, right? Well, let's have him team up with his enemy to fight a bigger enemy, like it's X2 movies like that. But that was cool to see him have to work with a team, people that he didn't like, kind of establishing his dominance. I love the scene where he and Perlman go back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, exciting, isn't it? Right.
All the memes.
Yeah, that's all the memes come from that scene of the two of them. But let's talk about one major thing, I think, is bringing back Whistler. We were joking about it. I was joking about it at the end of the last one, Brandon. You had not seen the second one yet, so you didn't pick up on that. But what did you think about them bringing Chris Christopherson back?
I was confused for a minute, because like I said, I did watch this pretty earlier, and I'm like, didn't he die? I thought, and then I'm like, I went to look it out, and I'm like, no, well, they didn't actually show because they really panned away in the first.
Heard
movie,
the gunshot.
Yeah, I mean,
clearly the intention of the first movie was he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a moment, that was a thing, and he turned anyway, and he didn't kill himself in time. Like it's such huge retcon, right? A huge retcon for the purposes of the story. I get that they used Whistler as bait to get Blade out because, as they tell him at the end, he's your only weakness, man.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, I guess, but still, that kind of undercutting of a beat that was so strong in the first one, and they even flash back to it.
They do.
So to like remind you of what happened.
I'm glad that they did because that must have been where it was. Where I'm like, didn't he die in the first movie? Right? And so I'm glad that they did put that clip in. Believe it or not.
And I can only assume that Chris Christopherson has a bum leg himself, which is why I was joking, on our shtick at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? It's like he's a vampire, but he still has a bum leg. They at least have they couldn't even fix my leg, right? They put that in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy Blade and Whistler together. I think Whistler, he probably has more to do in this one than
he
does in the first one. He has a lot of great stuff to do, but you spend the first, 15, 20 minutes of this movie with this whole, like, let's get Whistler back. Okay, now we can move forward. So I don't know. That was like I know people really like that relationship, but it's kind of like, and this movie hasn't come out yet, right? As of this recording, but Wonder Woman 1984, they're bringing Steve Trevor back. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
like his death was a big deal in the first movie, and he's gonna die again. It's a comic movie, Brandon. I know you don't watch these, but Captain Kirk was in Wonder Woman, and he died. Okay, it's a big deal.
William Shatner?
Now he's back in the second one, and he's gonna die.
Did
again.
he fall off a bridge?
So that's my deal there. Now, do I enjoy him in the movie? Of course I do, right? And when I near the end of it, I was like, I'm glad he's back, right? But still, you cannot just like say, that's fine, whatever. Like it was a big. There's only like 3 characters in the first movie.
Yeah.
One of them died. It was a huge deal. Bringing him back like so nonchalantly was surprising and disappointing. Although once he was back, I liked it. So that's my take on that. Did you guys think that he was gonna be a villain or something? Because when he came back, they were playing it real ambiguous.
I didn't think he would be. No.
Because like he disappears from his post and then he opens the door of the truck and I'm like, where'd he go? What's going on? Is he an inside job? No?
I didn't think that.
You didn't think so?
No, I didn't think so either.
I think it would have been cool.
Yeah. If he was a bad guy or if they played it up more.
Well, I think if like that, if he was a bad guy, that would have made his death and resurrection have a price. Like, he's back, but he's different now. And Blade has to kill his father figure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would have been cool. Because they were playing with that when he first came back.
Right. Yeah. No, I didn't really think it would be the case, though.
But no, they went with Norman Reedus.
Well, opening that up here, so as a new viewer to this movie, I'll say that the one thing that I didn't appreciate was that Norman Reedus' character turned out to be like a bad and like infiltrating Blade's operation there because
Scud!
To me, like I would think that Blade is a better character than to be fooled by one of these familiars.
But he said at the end, I was on you the whole time, or something like that. Right?
Then why would he let him work with him? I don't know.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yeah, there you go. They say it in the movie.
They do.
I like that he ended up being a bad guy because first I was like, who's this replacement Whistler they got? Like, is this the guy from The Walking Dead? I was like, who is this? Right? I'm like, who's this guy?
Daryl Dixon.
And then the whole like, he has a tattoo inside the lip. Blade never looked there.
Yeah.
So, but the double switch at the end where he's like, I got you. No, I got you. Right? Because Blade being one step ahead, I think paid it off. I agree. That was like this douchey new character who you don't like already.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the character,
what's up, B?
Yeah, he calls him B. Like whenever characters call other people by like their initials, like JL for example on Star Trek Picard, I'm prone to not like it. So it's just like I was glad that he got blown up at the end. It was very satisfying.
So don't call you ZM.
No, Z. What is this, like a Canadian thing? Now this is I think I might be remembering this correctly. I don't know if Guillermo del Toro was approach to do Terminator 3.
Mm-hmm.
He may have, he may not have. He's been attached to so many things. But watching this movie, I said, and this came out in 2004.
Yeah.
And Terminator 3 came out in 2003. And watching this, I thought to myself, this should have been Terminator 3 because Norman Reedus here looks so much like an older Edward Furlong. Like, if you told me that was Edward Furlong,